Welcome back. More V8 supercars on the track. This time it's the Dunlop series. So round 2, race 1. Our Armour All pole sitter is Steve Owen, who starts alongside Cameron Waters on the front row of the grid. Your commentators for this one, Greg Murphy and Aaron Noonan.
Matty, looking forward to this. Steve Owen back in the championship this weekend. Didn't do the first round on the streets of Adelaide. Murph, standout qualifying. Morgan Haber, P3 for Matthew White's team. Paul Dumbrell, the series leader, starts from position 7. Shane Price back in V8s this weekend. Great to see him back driving for the THR team from Adelaide in one of the old Jack Daniels Commodores. Tim Macro, the Formula 3 champ, makes his series debut. Big field of cars, 30 will line up for this. First race of 2 for the weekend. Armour All pole position to Steve Owen, driving the car that he drove last year for Matty White's team, the ex-Mark Winterbottom car. Cam Waters alongside. He drives for Ford Performance Racing. Remember, he was very fast on the streets of Adelaide. Row 2, Andrew Jones alongside Morgan Haber. Then Ant Pedersen from New Zealand. Ash Walsh, runner-up in the series last year. Paul Dumbrell starts from 7th. Remember, he's driving for Eggleston Motorsport this year. So 25 laps. There's time for these guys to sort themselves out. How will the rubber go? They'll have watched the V8 supercar race. Let's see what they do in this one. Away we go. Cam Waters, the NZ Ford, has made a ripping start. Dumbrell is slow away as they fly into turn 1.
He did balk there. He just jumped ever so slightly, Cam Waters, then put the foot on the brake. Not quite sure. We'll have to see if we get another shot of that at the start as they stream through. Look at that. Walsh, what a start. He comes from 6 to take 2nd spot into turn 3. The rest of them streaming through. Bit of a bottleneck further back through the field. As you said, Aaron, this track after the V8 supercar race is in very, very different condition to what these guys saw early this morning in qualifying.
And they had a really weird practice day where that sealant that was coming up, these guys probably copped the worst of it. We went down there yesterday. We could have brought bucket loads of it back. They brought half the racetrack back with them. So they were down essentially a session on their setup time and knowing what was going on. It was like driving in the wet.
Yeah, the track has gone through some big transformations over the last few days. The sun is shining now. The supercars have been out and worn a little bit of a groove back into this Winton circuit.
The guy with the groove at the moment is Cam Waters, clearing away in the NZ Ford for Ford Performance Racing, the Formula 4 champ. There he is. The margin back to Ash Walsh is quite handy. Of course, this is FPR. It's an FPR car, but it is run by FPR as well. They're back in the series this year after a year away. Remember, they ran Chaz Mostert in 2012, but that's the order. Ash Walsh next, then Andrew Jones, then Steve Owen, Morgan Haber, Dumbrell, Paul Morris has moved up, then Chris Pepper, Owen down the inside. That's for 3rd.
So Steve Owen, maybe, I don't know, maybe a few races away from getting one of these cars off the line, but that probably wasn't one of his finest starts. Probably hasn't done a lot of miles up until this point, but here we go. A lot of wheel spin by Steve Owen. Oh, Pedersen, very, very slow to get away, and that's cost him dearly. He's lost a lot of spots. Back to 13th as it stands.
Waters did have a little move, but
I think he was stopped and he wasn't over the line, so he should be okay with that start.
Chaz Mostert watching on. Paul Morris will be his co-driver for the Enduro Cup, and the dude is behind the wheel of the Sargent Security Ford. Aaron Tebb off the road at Penrite Corner, and there's a grass verge that will let him get back on at least. It's a long
fortunate
way.
Not to get in the fence there, run through the gravel trap. We saw some action in the supercar race there as well earlier. Ash Walsh, though, he is back on Cam Waters' tail, and these two have got a little bit of a score to settle. Not that it's, you know, a real bad thing, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but they obviously had that coming together at Adelaide, and both of them came off second best.
And it cost Ash Walsh 25 series points when they were fighting for the lead. They had contact on the streets of Adelaide. Morgan Haber here, he's driving for the Matthew White team. He's teammates with Steve Owen, and he's put in his best performance so far. This was Aaron Tebb running off.
Oh, yeah, he just ran through way too quickly. The gravel trap did do its job, stopped him from getting in the fence.
Just added about 0.2 of a kilometre to the 3-kilometre Winton circuit. Looking back in the order here, that's Josh Keane in the number 3 car. He's renumbered. Here's Marcus Zukanovic, 50th round start for him this weekend. Just the 3rd man to do it in the Dunlop series. He's trying to pass Frederick Lestrup, who is the Swede. So we've got Robert Dahlgren in the main championship in the Volvo, and now we've got a Swede in the Dunlop series as well.
The Swedes are coming, mate. Yep. The Volvos are here. The Swedes are coming. They got the message. And he has moved, you know, he's having a much better run there than what he had at Adelaide as well, but Zekanovic touching up the back of the Commodore of Lestrip. First time here for the Swede as well around the Winton Raceway.
And that's one of the ex-Gary Rogers Fujitsu Commodores, Michael Caruso's car from a couple of years ago. Zekanovic in a former FPR car. Brett Stewart from Western Australia just in behind. Cam Waters fastest to the second sector this time around. Ash Walsh in second. That's the Infant Friend car. Now, that's from Queensland. He's from Ipswich, so Queensland Raceway is very much his home test track. The history here is bad if you're from Queensland, because no Queensland team has ever won a round of the Dunlop Series here. The Victorian teams and the Albury Brad Jones Racing Squad, they've held sway.
Cam Waters just a couple of tenths faster than Ash Walsh, who will be looking to close down the NZ Falcon. And we've got a bit of a battle on our hands coming.
Cam Waters leads the way. 25 laps. There's a long way to go. The NZ Ford has the lead at the moment. Ash Walsh is chasing. More from Winton in just a moment. Well, we've had a busy day in the V8 Supercars Championship, and the action is on. It's hot. It's just as heavy in the Dunlop Series. We're on lap 5 of 25, and Cam Waters for Ford Performance Racing leads the way. We're looking here at the fight just outside the top 10. Aaron Russell, new look on that Go-Karts Go-Car that's just in front. A bit of orange instead of yellow. There's Taz Douglas in the silver Ford, and while we're in the break, Gary Jacobson shoved it down the inside, got past, and then there was a rub on the exit.
Yeah, it was a good move. He did a really good job of getting down the inside, nice and clean, but then he just used too much road on the exit, and we know we're not supposed to do that. So he's driven Taz Douglas right off the road when he's still at an overlap, and you have to give racing room. So that'll get looked at, I have no doubt, as his teammate and Pedersen looked on after that terrible start. He has really suffered here.
That's the top 3 going through. Steve Owen was the last one. Then Andrew Jones, Dumbrell, Morgan Haber, Paul Morris, Chris Pither, Andre Heimgartner, Gary Jacobson, Aaron Russell. I've nearly caught up. Taz Douglas and Pedersen. That's Josh Keane, young South Australian. Jack LeBrock, first year in, former Formula 4 champ. Done a bit of racing with Erebus. He's part of their academy program. And young Todd Hazelwood just in behind. This is Paul Dumbrell. He won here in 2002 when he won the series. It's a long, long time ago.
It's a long time ago. And he's out there now giving a few of these boys still a bit of a lesson.
Kim Jones. Smile, won a race.
Yeah, you think he's had the worst day out. He just had 3 guys inside the, or 2 on the podium and 1 not far off it. And he's an amazing job by BJR.
And he's got a few cars here. Andrew Jones 4th. Chris Pither is also part of the Brad Jones Racing Dunlop Series program. 8th in the Ice Break Coffee Commodore, but 6 down. One of the things I want to talk to you about, Murph, we talked about in Adelaide. This year, 2 race formats at every round, longer races, greater opportunity for drivers to have some time to work themselves in. Last year, it was crash and bash. There was some really stupid stuff going on. But the race format dictates almost a better level of driving this year, and we're seeing it.
Yeah, these are long races, and it teaches these guys a little bit more about patience, as we see a little bit of a lock up there from a few cars going into turn 1. We just saw Fabian Coulthard's in there looking very cool and collected after dominating race 1.
Having a look here, Murph, at Dan Day. This is the former Nick Percat car, one of the cars that Walkinshaw Racing sold a few years ago. He's down the back. He's a rookie, learning his way. Out front, though, Cam Waters, he holds the lead. 1.7 seconds. FBR's young guns on target. There's a long, long way to go in the Dunlop Series from Winton. Well, the Dunlop Series is rolling. We've got the tunes going too, Bert.
The music. Morgan Haber down the inside of Paul Dumbrell, who was trying to put a move on Andrew Jones. That was very lucky. Look at the lock on car 88. Paul Dumbrell using every bit of his skill to keep that car from spinning around. Morgan Haber just letting the older bloke, the guy with experience. I'm going to use the older. I'm going to call him older bloke, even though he's a lot younger than me. But, I remember when he was 16.
Yeah, I do too. That seems like yesterday, but it's not anymore. This is on for 4th. Andrew Jones, Paul Dumbrell, Morgan Haber, who has never finished in the top 10 in a Dunlop Series race. This has been his best run of the weekend. He's got to keep it going. He's got to keep with these guys. He's hanging with Dumbrell and Morris, guys who've been there and done it.
But Jones is backing these guys up. That was a 27.3 on that lap, whereas the 3 guys ahead are doing 25. So he's in a bit of strife, and he's pushing back these guys behind him. Dumbrell is looking for a way past, and he's getting a little bit frustrated. Haber, he wants to get going too, and then we've got Paul Morris behind.
has been involved in a little in the Dunlop series over the years.
Has been known.
Oh, just a little here and there.
So we can see the bottleneck, Pither, Heimgartner, Jacobson doing a good job there too.
And Andrew Jones, remember, he'll drive with Jason Bright for BOC at the Enduros later in the year. BJR did have a test with their Dunlop Series program here, but they just used Chris Pither's car. So Andrew Jones spent some time in the 42 Icebreak Coffee Commodore, but this is pretty comparative. I'd be interesting to see the pace of Dumbrell and Haber and the like, if they can get by Andrew Jones, but they can't get by him at the moment. So much so that down the road, Steve Owen, who's third, is nearly 9 seconds down the road. They can't even see him.
No, that's a huge gap. Absolutely huge gap. So Andrew Jones really backing these guys up. And I wonder if offline, off the racing line, there is limited amount of grip, which is meaning these guys are unable to use any other part of the road to maybe make a move on Andrew, who continues to be a little bit off the pace. That was a faster lap, about 8 or 9 tenths off the pace, that one. So he's managed to pick up the pace a little bit from the last lap.
Just before we came on air with this Dunlop Series race, you were making out an invoice to Russell Ingall. Why?
Well, you know, he happened to say a few things about some officials.
Ivory Towers.
Ivory Tower, that's mine. I'm sure that's mine. I'm sure I've used that. I think I used it right here at Winton a number of years ago.
So a quick shot there. That's Lucas Dumbrell, Paul's little brother, who, of course, team owner for Russell Ingall. I was able to combine all of those things.
Well,
one little compartment there.
Don't know if Lucas is going to be too pleased either with that. But that was an interesting situation. I mean, he did get up the inside of 2 guys and cause a bit of an incident. So how do we penalise that? Well, the fans at home saying that before that penalty was too harsh. As we're watching Cam Waters doing a beautiful job out front in his FPR NZ Falcon.
And it's had a bit of a gap since the first round. Remember, it was at the Clipsal 500. The main V8s have been to Albert Park, they've been to Simmons Plain, so these guys have had to been wait and get back on the road. But he's been doing a little bit of racing, late model speedway stuff up in Mildura, so if this track's slippery, he's okay.
He's doing a great job. He is definitely a star of the future. Been watching Cam for a number of years through all the other classes on his way through to the development series, and there's no question he is a star of the future.
Looking here at Andrew Jones, Paul Dumbrell, remember PD is back with Jamie Wincup for Red Bull Racing Australia. He's driving this car, he's doing this program because of the Enduro Cup, because last year at Bathurst in the Enduros, there was the odd little mistake that tends to happen when you've been out of the saddle full time. It's a bit harder to shake the rust off.
Yeah, it is hard. It really is. Keeping race fit in these cars, doesn't matter how much work you do outside the car, how much training. Dumbrell very wide, trying to find an angle on Andrew Jones, but he's not able to get through the sweeper and through into turn 7 fast enough to be able to put himself up the inside. So, as I said, maybe that positioning on the track is having a lot to do with it. You don't want to get too far offline.
This is Dan Day, young South Australian driver in the lane in the ex-Nick Percat Commodore that they purchased late last year, and very much learning and finding his way. He's only a young guy, 19 years of age, and learning, but he's in the lane, as is Tim Macro, who is on debut in the new Gallagher Motorsport team. They're running quite an old ex-PWR Cup. This is a really good fight. They can't get Jonesy. No. He's still hanging on.
I'm a bit surprised too, because he is that much off the pace compared to the front guys. We'll look at the times. 25.5 for Waters, that's time round. A 26.7, so 1.2 seconds off the leading pack, and I'm sure if Dumbrell got past, he would go.
And that leading pack is led by Cam Waters, originally from Mildura. He leads the way, 3.8 seconds the margin. We're approaching half race distance here at Winton. Back at Winton, let's have a look at the highlights so far of race 1 in the Dunlop Series. Steve Owen started from pole. He wasn't in P1 by the time he got to the first corner because Cam Waters was. The pole man was slow away. Aaron Tebb, Greg Murphy, he went off the road, but he didn't hit the wall, and he's back in the race. We had a great shot from curb cam. Gary Jacobson put a move on Taz Douglas, and a little bit of contact on the exit there, running 10th and 11th in the race at the moment. But this man has been the man. Ford Performance Racing's young gun, Cam Waters, leading the way. Ash Walsh is leading the chasers. Morgan Haber had a go at Paul Dumbrell. He got a bit of contact. They managed to get away with it. and they continued on. Andrew Jones, though, is hanging on to fourth spot. Cam Waters, this is a great shot of the NZ FPR Falcon FG down at turn 1. We're on lap 15 of this 25-lap race, and this is where the dude is at. The two Pauls, Dumbrell and Morris, fighting for position 5.
Well, as I said to you, Aaron, during the break, maybe Paul Morris has decided, I'm not sitting around any longer waiting for this to happen. Andrew Jones has been pushing these guys back. Fourth place is, I think, 20 seconds behind the leader. Jones has been struggling a little bit with pace, and I think Paul Morris has decided it is time for someone to do something about this and move forward, and the dude is on a charge.
Yeah, boys, just to update you with the two guys that came into pit lane. Dan Day, he had flat spotted the front left tyre. And for Tim Macro, the guys said that they've been struggling with some brake issues across the weekend, and he'd sort of torched one of the tyres, and they didn't really want to risk it any more than what they already had by him being out there. So he's done for his day. Now, interesting. I just bumped into Tony D'Alberto in pit lane, and some people might think, well, that's not unusual. The thing that is unusual is he is on the radio to young Josh Keane. So Tony's just telling him, just go a bit quicker, mate.
Oh, that's just awesome.
He's got a long career as an engineer, if he keeps that up.
Just go a bit faster. It's easy, mate. It's easy.
I think he's just upset because this weekend Josh has grabbed the number 3 that Tony has used. A question we get asked a lot, actually, Murph. There's not separate numbers for the main championship, the Dunlop series. There's one set of numbers for 2 championships in the category. So Tony D'Alberto not racing full-time in V8s anymore with his own team. So number 3 was available, and Josh went and grabbed it. Good idea.
It's a good number.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very good number.
Yeah. Cam Waters' numbers are good. 6.7 seconds now is the lead back to Ash Walsh.
What's even better is it's number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the fight for 4th, though, and Andrew Jones has still got it. They've all been faster than him at some stage, but he's still there.
So we've still got 9 laps to go, and I don't think the dude's probably finished with his march forward a little bit. He's put a lot of pressure on Paul Dumbrell, which is surprising. Oh, there you go, a bit of a battle around the last corner.
And this is Josh Keane, of who we spoke, with Todd Hazelwood, who's got by for 16th spot. Todd's driving for Matt Stone Racing in an ex-Stone Brothers car, and Josh's car is actually one of James Courtney's old Holden Racing Team cars from a couple of years ago, so the gear's very good.
Look, Josh clearly wasn't listening to Tony's words of wisdom. Just go faster.
Sack TD.
Yep, he's lost a spot. But action back all the way through the field. As we've said, it's a long race.
But it's good.
It is good.
That's good. These guys get to learn what these cars do over a longer race distance.
You can't drive 25 laps around here in a V8 supercar, and you can't do it consistently and do it well lap after lap after lap. You know, you're going to have to get better.
Todd Hazelwood here. Remember, he won the Shannon Supercar Showdown last year. Josh Keane right front.
I
don't want to be that right front now because I reckon it'll be really feeling it. Hazelwood, his teammate to Ash Walsh. They run a 3-car team. Matt Stone up on the Gold Coast, of course, son of Jim Stone, part of Stone Brothers Racing for so many years now, focusing very heavily on this Dunlop series. Cam Waters lead 7.1. Pether off the road. Ice Break Coffee Commodore locked it up. Taz Douglas is in deep too, and I reckon from here on in we're going to get more drama like this.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate, as we see, but out front, man, Waters consistent, so consistent. That time round, he was a fair bit quicker than Ash Walsh, and he continues to increase that lead to over 7 seconds.
But Andrew Jones is hanging on. He still sits in position number 4. We're on lap 18 of 25. Still 8 to go. There's a lot that can happen. Come back to Winton in just a sec. It's Paul squared, Dumbrell and Morris going at it here in the Dunlop series at Winton. Positions 5 and 6 on the line. Andrew Jones just in front. Cam Waters leads the way by a pretty handy margin, but this has been tight, Greg Murphy. Dumbrell's been fading. His car's starting to struggle. Morris starting to come on.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get the crossover here out of 11 into 12, which we've seen work very, very well in the past because Paul was narrow in the braking area, but he did a good job to hold the Morris Paul off, and the battle for 5th is still raging as the 3 leaders down the road. Waters, though, he is doing a superb job out front. The fastest car on the track still, lap after lap, and with 5 to go.
And they've got to send out a search party to find this guy because he's that far in front. 8 seconds in front of Ash Walsh. Now, let's just get this into perspective. The Dunlop Series, if you haven't seen much of it, it's the proving ground for the V8 Supercar stars of the future. Cam Waters is a young guy that's ticked the boxes in all the junior categories. This is a change of position. Steve Owen through to second. Ash Walsh, he did a 29.3 that time around.
Yeah, so he's been off the road.
He's been off the road or he's got a drama.
He's been off the road probably maybe down at 11 potentially, but this has only just happened. We haven't seen it at this stage, but Steve Owen, who was reasonably close to Walsh, has managed to get ahead as Waters' lead goes out to 10.6 seconds. The kid is showing and teaching all these guys a lesson today. And
that's the point I was going to make. This series is all about proving yourself on the stage in front of the V8 teams. Get an endurance drive, get in the door.
If you get an opportunity, you've got to make the most of it. He's in a very good car, right? No question about that, but these guys are in good cars too.
He's driving an FPR car. Steve Owen here has won plenty of rounds of this series. He's a two-time champion in this series. He's driving for Matthew White's team.
Here we go.
That'll
Owen.
be White.
Well, it would be good to see a little bit further back, but there was a big hit there in the door with those two.
Interesting.
As Paul Morris continues to put the pressure on Paul Dumbrell. We thought he was going to move forward a little bit more. The gap has closed a fraction back on Andrew Jones, so the heat might be back on.
This is the fight between the young Kiwi, Andre Heimgartner, Gary Jacobson, who's teammate to Paul Dumbrell in the Eggleston Motorsport team, and Taz Douglas, who is such a cool, chilled sort of a cat. He drove the Enduros with James Moffat for the Nissan team last year. I'd love to see him get another opportunity because he did a really nice job. He drives for the Image Racing team in an ex-Stone Brothers car, and he's always there or thereabouts. He came off a very good weekend at Adelaide where he finished P2 to Paul Dumbrell at the end of the opening round of the series. So he's a guy with plenty of laps, but these guys have got plenty of laps around here too. It's really hard to pick the Dunlop Series. Remember in the day we'd turn up, we knew there was one guy who was going to bash them and the rest were fighting for third, fourth and fifth, but you don't really know who's going to come out of the gate every weekend and dominate like this.
No, the last couple of seasons have been very different. It was just fantastic to see in race 7 today, Dale Wood, last year's champion.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it?
Get on the podium. He qualified his car today in the first session just beautifully, and he drove superbly to take advantage and finish on the podium. So great for him and BJR, but superb to see after a tough start to his supercar career this year, a tough start to end up on a podium only within 7 races.
He's a classic example of Dunlop Series graduates. Yes, he won the championship last year driving for Matty White's team, but he drove for Greg Murphy Racing quite some years ago when he was out on Formula Ford and he was young and a little bit raw, but there was something there, and he's worked at it. He worked in the Kelly workshop. He did the sticker jobs on all the cars. It's not like he's just turned up and suddenly been driving in a top-line team.
Massive passion for it, and it works incredibly hard, and he deserves everything he gets. As we see our race leader coming up.
Oh, traffic. Aaron McGill, Michael Hector.
Oh, they moved out of the way nicely for him.
Gets on by.
And McGill was trying to get an opportunity there on Hector when that happened. He's covered this time down into 7.
This is an idea of 10 seconds back to Steve Owen in the Global Welding Supplies car. Very late deal for this to happen. Ryan Simpson drove that car in Adelaide, and now Steve Owen jumps in. They're pretty hopeful that he can do the rest of the championship. Remember, he drives with Mark Winterbottom at the
These are all lap cars. This is not 4th, 5th and 6th. Here they come now.
Wait for him.
Andrew Jones still holding that position. Paul Dumbrell managing as the menacing Sergeant Security Falcon just puts its nose down the inside slightly. Morgan Haber, I'm impressed with this. He's done a great job the last few rounds in New Zealand, the Super Tours, and I think it's probably working for him, doing double duty, getting extra miles for a young guy. This is certainly going to be helping him when he gets in the seat of his development series Dunlop car.
He's been doing miles. He came from the V8 Touring Car Series, which is where the old cars that are no longer eligible for the Dunlop Series go. He's done the racing in New Zealand. He started in Suzuki Swifts. He's from Mackay in Queensland and has been just slowly but surely getting a bit better, getting all the bits of the puzzle. They're starting to come together.
2 laps to run. Is it done here with these positions? 4th, 5th and 6th.
It does look a little
It's looking quite settled at this stage. Morris doesn't look like he's got too much more. He had a bit of a run at Dumbrell. Maybe put just a bit too much pressure on tires. Look at all the debris on the road there too. Very difficult. More debris on the road from someone ahead. Putting a bit more dirt out there. The track is pretty dirty. One line for a lot of the circuit at the moment. And these guys, I think, are just going to try and get these cars home. A long race, 25 laps, 24 done.
We should remember too, Murph, this weekend, tomorrow's race is how you finish this one. Remember at Adelaide, we had separate qualifyings at the regular racetrack rounds. We're going to have the regular system of start where you finish. So this is great news for Cam Waters. He's got one to go after this one. He's on target for his very first race win in the Dunlop Series. He's been in it for a little while. This would be the breakthrough that he needs.
Yeah, well, this is definitely the best chance he's had, and he is making the absolute most of it. No question, this is the best car he's been in the Dunlop Series. But you've still got to drive it. You've still got to be consistent. You've still got to impress, and there's no question that this drive has been super impressive. Right from the start, he got the jump on Steve Owen, but Owen's had nothing for him anyway.
No, the margin is 9.7 seconds, so Cam can control this one. He's from Mildura originally. He's moved to Melbourne to be obviously nearer to FPR. He drove for the Minder team last year in an old Gary Rogers Commodore and had some good rounds. He was part of the Kelly team before that with the short-lived Dreamtime operation in the Dunlop Series, but he's in the right gear now, and that's just, you know it better than anyone. That's half the battle.
Well, it's a huge part of the battle.
Probably 3/4 of the battle.
Absolutely a huge part of the battle. And we've seen so many times very good drivers in cars that aren't quite right, and they struggle. But he is making the most of it. He is on board with the FPR team for this year in the Enduros. And this is going to make everybody very happy in that team to see that they've got this young guy on the books and doing the job.
The last guy they had is in the main game now. Chaz Mostert, of course, was FPR's star of the Dunlop Series a couple of years ago. They've got another one on their hands. The NZ Ford is at the final turn. Race one of the weekend in round 2 of the Dunlop Series. It's a breakthrough for the first time. Cam Waters wins in the Dunlop Series. Well done. And he's smashed them. He's miles in front of the two-time champ, Steve Owen. And he and Ash Walsh will run home for second and third, but Cam Waters, ooh, confidence build. That's nice.
No, absolutely. And if he starts from pole tomorrow, you know, there's a good chance we might get a repeat. This is the battle that has raged all the way through. Morrison's not done. Dumbrell's not done. Andrew Jones has defended every attack that he's had from behind, and he's managed to bring his BJR Commodore home in 4th position.
That was a long 25 laps for Andrew Jones, but he made it in the end.
In an average car. Well done, mate.
I think
Matt Crawford.
There's a few guys out there who've been driving average cars late in the race because they've had to use the tyres up. So well done, Cam Waters. He'll be back tomorrow to start from pole for race 2. Dumbrell, Morris, Morgan Haber, PB. Great job in 7th from Gary Jacobson. Andre Heimgartner in 9th, and Taz Douglas rounds out the 10. It's a reverse top 10 tomorrow. That will be tasty when the Dunlop Series returns at Winton tomorrow at the Winton 400.